Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Hollow and today we're talking about Crucible, our newest hero brawler by Relentless Studios. That's right, another hero brawler. Visually, it's pretty generic and the character design is mostly, well, uninspired. And you're probably already wondering from looking at this, is this just going to be another failure post-launch like Lawbreakers or Bleeding Edge? The key difference here is yes, the visuals and hero brawler tagline are generic, but thankfully, the game is much more interesting than that, with some genuinely fun mechanics, varied game modes, and on top of that, it's actually free to play, unlike Bleeding Edge or Lawbreakers with that paywall. Also, it just came out in open beta as of today, so you can jump in on Steam whenever you like. So let's start with my first impressions, how this game works, and if it's worth playing. Let's talk about what kind of game this actually is. Officially, it's a free-to-play, team-based PvP action shooter, which is kind of a mouthful. Currently, it features 10 characters to play, all with different roles, abilities, passives, skill trees, and more. We've got arcadey, less serious game modes, and then more competitive style in the Heart of the Hives and Alpha Hunter modes. In each and every match, we'll pick a character, jump in, fight to win whatever objective or mode that we're in, and it's always going to be a team-based experience, from big 8v8 battles to smaller 8 teams of 2. You'll choose your personal skill trees that you progress and unlock the more you gather XP, known as Essence, throughout each match. You'll always jump in low level at 1 and fight for the objective or survival, earn Essence, get stronger, and at the crescendo of power, defeat the enemy. There's elements of a third-person shooter, hero brawler, MOBA stuff. It's a lot going on, frankly, but it's far from overwhelming like it might sound right now. So how does it actually work? As I mentioned, we have 10 characters to play. They all have their own role. We've got direct supports, zone control, damage dealers, tanky types, the usual. Each coming with their own kit and skill trees, as you can see. We get to choose these before loading into each and every match, or just before a match begins. So we get to modify our abilities based on what we're going to need with what team we've got. And we unlock these passives and improvements as we progress through the match and levels. We gather that XP by gathering essence coming from most of anything you do in the game, be it fighting enemy players and defeating them, capturing points, destroying fauna around the sort of alien terrain, or defeating the alien wildlife itself. It's a PvE/VP experience every match. What's very interesting about this is that every time I gather essence, it counts towards the team's total level. So if I stand around doing nothing and my team's out there playing the game, gathering XP, I will still level up alongside them, like Heroes of the Storm, where we all have a shared XP pool. This actually allows you to form teams around XP farmers and PvPers specifically, like having a dedicated role for your player, picking characters and builds around, say, hardcore wiping out alien wildlife for team XP, while you also have fighters who go out and intentionally play those objectives and fight enemy players and ignore PvE, trying to disrupt the enemy team as much as possible, which is kind of neat. Every match, like I said, you start at level 1, and generally you're ending a match around level 4 or 5. Teams with that level bump or advantage have an extra passive ability mod, which is a huge advantage in fights. So those levels really do matter. Okay, so what are the game modes? We currently have 2 game modes of, well, competitive value, and then an arcadey mode window for future mini games, less balanced modes, and different other weird stuff. Having that already in place, like the Overwatch arcade system, is a good sign. It's having foundations for competitive play, and then also just dumb fun play. So here's what the current free modes are. We have the arcadey one, which is Harvester Command, then we have the other 2, the competitive ones, Heart of the Hive and Alpha Hunters. So as I said, Harvester Command is the arcade mode. It's a big 8 versus 8 point control style mode, and each team is trying to control the area and those harvesters for points. The first team to generate 100 points wins the game. It's that simple. Since this is the arcadey mode, it's not quite as balanced, but it is a great way to learn the game and try different characters. It's much more forgiving because you can respawn frequently, you'll see a lot of different characters in just one match, and you get the chance to kind of learn the ins and outs of the game here. You actually will see repeat characters in this mode too. One game, one team in fact, could have multiple of the same character, which is kind of weird, but I guess it's arcadey, so whatever. As far as the game mode goes, it's not very original or exciting compared to the other competitive modes in the game. At the end of the match, we'll be able to see scoreboards to check who actually gathered what XP, who got the kills, how much damage was done, and objectives captured too, so we can actually all compare PP sizes and see who was actually pulling their weight. For our next game mode, we're going to talk about Heart of the Hive, which is probably the most competitive and main mode of this game. You've got 2 teams of 4 fighting to defeat the boss-like hive monsters on the map. easily more balanced in concept alone compared to Harvester Command. It's just more strategic. We'll be fighting off against AI and enemy players to level up and attempt to be the first team to gather free hearts from the hive bosses. So, we'll try to defeat these big hive bosses, that will reveal their hearts, try and capture those hearts, all while fighting off the enemy team at the same time. Now, the hive spawn at set intervals and will show up on the map when and where they're going to spawn next. So your goal is basically to gather as much essence as possible, get that XP advantage, deny the enemy of getting any essence that you can, all before the next hive boss fight. To help you do this, there's 5 harvesters that are around the map and they provide more essence passively. So the more you have, the better, ideally having the majority on the map throughout the match to give you an XP advantage. Now, during the game, you can also find essence canisters. These will also provide you with XP, and you just have to pick them up, hand them in, so players are always going to be ongoing fighting for these. But once the hive spawn, everyone on the map is going to look to fight over it. Defeating the hive boss will reward like a massive chunk of XP, as well as revealing that hive heart. But to gain points and win the game, you need to capture these hearts. It's the first team to get to 3, so this is all the main event of the match. Now, in this game mode, the respawns are comparatively much longer to punish you harder for dying. It's a very neat way to incentivize PvP in like a set location on a big map like this with lots going on. I think from the description alone, it's way more competitive and unique than the previous mode. I can compare this to lots of different games. There's like little elements from other games like Evolve, for example, since it includes a lot of different stuff. But I do feel like it's well realized and quite unique. Finally, we have the last mode of play, Alpha Hunters. It's a survival mode with 8 teams of 2, all about being the last team or person alive in a fight against one another and the alien wildlife. Thing is, there's no respawns in this mode, so when you're out, you're just out. That's right, it's a battle royale in this PvE PvP world. You've got all the characters functioning as classes with their talents and ongoing leveling up match to match, and everything else we've seen in the game so far. It's a pretty exciting concept considering there's a lot going on, but it'd probably be terribly imbalanced and difficult if a player lost his teammate and now he's stuck solo. What chance does he have against a healthy 2-man team? So that's where the alliance system comes into play. You can form packs with other players who would normally be an enemy. It's only possible if you've lost your teammate and you're also grouping up with another who's a solo survivor. But it's pretty cool. I mean, it provides players who lost their teammate, say early on, a way to have a good chance in the match again. Since this is a slower time to kill game, you can't just one-tap players in the head with a, whatever skill you've got. It wouldn't really work very well. So I think this is a good way around that. As you'd expect though, the area of play will get smaller and smaller as the game goes on. And at the end, we get to see how we place as a team, time of survival, essence generated, damage done, all that good stuff. And I've already won one of these, right? You know that, right? So yeah, that's the core of the game and its mechanics, the different modes. But the question is, should you play this? I think it's an absolute yes. You've got nothing to lose because it's free to play and pretty unique. I've had a lot of fun playing it so far and it didn't cost me anything. There's no barrier of entry. Though I certainly have some different criticisms for this game, it's a good concept and a lot of cool mechanics at play. It definitely needs polish with mechanics, and my god, the visuals are rough at the best of times. But they've been claiming to take player feedback from the past alphas and betas into serious consideration. They want the game to be very good for live viewing like on Twitch, to have exciting and big moments like a MOBA, so I'd say they have a good vision, it just needs work. For us, there's no risk, there's no paywall, so you can just download it on Steam and give it a go. But outside of that, I'd say its biggest positive is the clever and interesting game modes and mechanics, while its weakest aspect has to be the generic visuals. What do you think? Do you think it stands a chance? I want to mention that this game does have in-game skins and cosmetics, emotes, a battle pass system, the usual stuff you'd expect in a free-to-play game, but at this time, none of it will affect gameplay. It's just like Apex Legends with their battle pass and store or whatever. For now though, that's been my first look at Crucible and my first impressions of it. I'm looking to make a more in-depth video to follow up after some real game time. Either way though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thank you very much for watching.